Well, before we continue any further, um, those maybe few that are new here, if you haven't already, you can, of course, you should follow the channel here, Slithering TV. Many great streamers, many great games. But I do have my own YouTube channel and my own, and where I do more of this, play games, talk about history. And of course, I stream for myself on the weekends. I know Fan Bishop already has these links, but anybody else here, please check that out. Well, yeah, not everyone watches everything I do. Sort of what got me prompted into this. I'm going to say this: Germany so could have won the Battle of the Mediterranean, which is inclusive of North Africa. The effort that Germany puts into North Africa after the Allied landings, after the torch landings, could, I mean, obviously, if you're talking early enough, they wouldn't have had Tiger 1 tanks or something like that, because they just hadn't been built yet. But they could have sent a lot more troops and effort and supplies. They could have supplied it better out of Tunisia across. I mean, they did do some of it, but they could have just done all of that airlift that you see later being used for the Stalingrad airlift. Had that been used earlier, that airlift capacity coming out of Greece, coming out of Crete to North Africa to supply the forces that were there with more fuel, more ammunition, as well, and also replacements for the units that were there. You could have transferred in more units, including some via air, but also some via ground, that would never have allowed Britain to be able to build up enough of the forces well before Montgomery gets in command, that they could have pushed into Alexandria and northern Egypt. They could have done that. In my opinion, there is no doubt about that they could have done that. I don't think Britain could have substantially moved more forces into the region. Now, there were forces in the region. Now, I'm not talking about the forces down pushing against the Italians down in the Ethiopian front, but I'm talking about in the sort of Egypt, Palestine region. There were other forces that the British weren't moving up to the front just because, at least at that whatever moment in time that we're looking at, that the British weren't going to effectively be able to supply, because the British were smart enough not to shove up a bunch of forces that they couldn't supply. And there was the whole Egyptian army, which is equipped to World War I standards with literally World War I equipment. But the Egyptian army, Egypt, who is not at war with Italy or Germany, the Egyptian army does fight one sort of skirmish at the Oasis. I'm blanking on the name. I know you guys, well, I blank on names for some reason. I don't know. The one that Alexander the Great visited. The Oasis out there, the Oasis city. They did skirmish once with some probing German or Italian, forces, but there is a significant amount of the officer corps, including Anwar Sadat, who's an officer at the time, and the fat one with the mustache, his predecessor. Boy, I'm again blanking on names. Part of the officer crew that were rather sort of pro-German, maybe not pro-Italian, but or at least anti-British. The Egyptian army might not be fighting and would be very unreliable at best. And so in my opinion, they could easily move into there. Now, how well could they have moved down to Cairo? I don't know. How well could they have gotten across the Suez? I don't know, but I think they could have. And this whole thing is just, we earlier on talked about all the landmines that they brought in and put down for the Mareth line. The Germans did. That readily could have, the amount of supplies and effort could have been earlier on used to do other things. So we know they could have. Hello, Highwayman 64. Siwa, the Ace of Siwa. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just, for some reason, I can picture somebody's face or know right on the map, but for some reason I blank on things. I don't know why when I try to call them up. But the sort of oasis town of Siwa, I believe, is what I'm referring to. I don't know the siege of Garabub right offhand. Dotag. Through my CV is impressive. Well, I've just studied a lot for a lot of years. And watched a lot of documentaries and watched a lot of movies and learned a lot. Thanks, Highwayman, for the very kind words. I do try to study, and that's sort of my thing, is to talk about. I love history. Why I play these games, why these games are particularly of interest. I mean, I like the tactical challenge. This is, of course, very similar, and since they're both Slytherin games, different development studios, but both within Slytherin Publishing. This is very similar and inhabits the same space as the, Panzer Corps franchise as well. And I like both of them, and they're both, interesting sort of tactical playing games and styles, and all of that is really good, and I enjoy that. But when you tie it to real history, that is what makes me, however fun, and I do find these very fun to play, however fun these are to play, that's what really sort of draws me into these games, is the historical connections. And so that's what I really like talking about. And so we're going to use our infantry here to take out these bunkers. Now the big concrete ones, I'm leaving that one around just because don't need to fight it. It isn't really going to help me. Were made by the French in the late 1930s as an anti-Italian defensive line right along here. The border is somewhere more like this. I don't know exactly here, but they sort of put it back. And those were left there, and there's still some left out in the desert. But they were remilitarized by the Germans after it. I love Operational Art of War and Advanced Tacticals. Well, it's been a long time since I played Operational Art of War. I don't know if I actually played 4. I know I played the original, and I know I played one version after the original. I go back to Steel Panthers under SSI that then Matrix picks up the franchise eventually. But yeah, but I've not played Advanced Tactics Gold, but I have played Operational Art of War. I like that a lot. I've been playing some of War in the East too, as well as Panzer Corps and Order of Battle, and I like them both. And I quite honestly, I don't play this as much as I would like, primarily because I sort of save it to play with you guys, play live here with you, and not just replaying it after learning all the tricks and tips and whatever. I could do that as well, which would be useful maybe if you wanted to see, after learning about it. But I've not played this scenario before, so I've just been playing it the speed that I've been streaming it here on Slytherin. So I'm really happy to stream it here because I find these fun. But I would play these on my own as well as playing more detailed war games. It's sort of, do I want a quick, fun, light challenge battle to play, or do I want something that is more detailed, like Operational Art of War or War in the East? They're all good, and to me they're not mutually exclusive as to their value. Okay, well, now we have some Matildas here, which can come right up here. I know we were going to get anti-tank support from the PaK 38s, which are 50mm guns, but I am intentionally using Matildas, which have very thick armor, which we might well take some damage here, which we are. But I figured it wasn't going to be too devastating, but I'm not going to move right into their fire zone objective, whatever. And yes, I should have done artillery support and whatnot first. I should remember better. The part of it is just me blathering on to you about things. At least I'm going to claim it is. I'm going to send the Typhoons up here to do strafing run with the artillery. You should really figure out your moves, what you want to do, then use your aircraft and artillery to do preparation attacks, and then we're going to come and use the Blenheim bombers here to bomb the dug-in troops. So Wellingtons to knock them down a bit. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to take these Spitfires. They're going to come up here. They're going to strafe these guys. Stay right where they are because they'll fly escorts for those bombers in case there's still some more fighters to come up. Okay, good thing we got these relatively well reinforced. Here. Now Montgomery did have a tank that he at least sometimes rode around in, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think it was one of two that they did. They took, I think they were early Lees. The British, like they ordered the Grants as a modification of the Lee. And these are the rather big tanks that had the 75mm gun mounted down in the hull and the turret with the 37mm gun. Standard American crew of 7, standard British crew of 6. But they pulled the main gun out of it. They left the turret on it, but removed the gun, so they hollowed them out a lot. And although they did put, I think, a fake gun on it, they used them as sort of, Montgomery, at least sometimes. I think it was Montgomery, as a forward command vehicle. Okay, so. Not that I'm so afraid, because obviously I did attack earlier. But I figure when we get ready to do a proper assault on those bunkers there, or the entrenched troops, it'll be good to have the anti-tank guns, at least somewhat knocked down. up. Close enough yet. Yeah, I think this next turn we'll concentrate on barraging those. We've already moved this turn. Okay, who haven't we moved? These guys. Anybody else? AA guns. Okay, well we can move those AA guns up to here. These guys, we'll move them to here, even though they won't be anti. Okay, okay, they have to land. See, they landed. Yay. Now that we have that sort of covered, the AA gun there. Okay, fighters, we can move. Do we need to escort? Do we want to do another strafing run there? Yeah, let's do that. We're going to leave them right where they're at, because that way there'll be more of an escort for those bombers. Yeah, we get to the hills there. Worried about this tank unit. That was a big boo-boo. Yep. Can you run away? No, you didn't run away. But there's no. Oh, nobody else is going to attack you. Great, 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 great. Hello. Yeah, just come back to here. I think that's probably far enough back. And reinforce. Only a little bit, but still. Okay. Probably isn't necessary to, but helpful. Yeah. Something else that can sort of, kind of, yeah, you can push on. And we run into a minefield. Well, I guess you'll come here. Up. These guys are going to move up and not attack because we need barrels up and down. I think we're going to move the barrel back down. With that minefield there, I'm sort of thinking we're sort of safe from immediate attack. Okay, found some more minefields. Like I did say, if you weren't here earlier, then they specified for the Mareth line when they remilitarized it. The Germans and the Italians remilitarized it. They put in 100,000 anti-tank mines and 70,000 anti-infantry mines. So, yeah, expecting, and I'm finding obviously lots and lots of mines to possibly run it or running into. Okay, so they've reinforced the anti-tank gun there a bit. Yeah, we'll strafe it, move to the side. bomb it and come over here. Good. Okay, you are running low on fuel. Okay, yeah, you land. You who landed last time, take back off. Good thing we got that airbase up there. It's keeping us operational a lot longer. Okay, those are the Spitfires. These are the Typhoons. They'll do better at that. Montgomery is going to pull a hard flanking maneuver. Yes, attack the anti-tank guns directly. I think we're going to move those guys back here now. They can... That's done what I wanted to do with that. Now here, like I say, try to prep our attacks in a very Montgomery fashion. I mean, Montgomery liked to turn flanks when he could, but he's very deliberate in wanting to use overwhelming firepower and such. His enemies, when and where capable. Okay, you fired, you fired, you fired, you fired, you fired. You have not. Yeah, there was somebody I should have. Well, no, maybe I want to take this guy down if they're going to stay. Let's go there to the square. Now, over here, Tilda's, but we're going to move these guys up here. Could have fired at somebody else. We're going to move these guys up. Move along the road and attack. You guys are flying, which I guess will continue to fly you back to that airbase. Oh. I'm a little worried about those guys deciding to spring out. These guys are going to be Brengen carriers, so they get to march. They're somewhat not good enough that I want to attack a dug-in position with. Well, let's suppress the artillery. Yeah, we might as well bring these big guys up forward. Okay, who haven't we moved yet? Okay, they're not attacking this turn. Yeah, we'll keep pushing some The flank up there, yeah, not attacking, not attacking, not attacking. We got the artillery here that we can next turn. Well, we'll do better with a planned attack than just a pure rushed go at it. They hurt us a bit, but we shot back. Okay, got some fairly heavy guns over there. They're now attacking, pushing us back. Okay. Then, see, the Germans are evacuating stuff up to some units up to more northern Tunis. And Giovanni did do retrograde movements, thought to be done fairly well. Once the Mareth line was reached and the flanks turned and all of that. So I think he those are pretty painful facts, obviously. Did fairly well considering what he had to work with at the time. Now, just to sort of finish up, Giovanni Messi, he surrenders in Tunisia and is a prisoner of war, and I gather he is a royalist, so he stays loyal to the royalist cause. So once there is an Italian armistice in September 43, so it's later we're in 43 now, of course. Later in the year here. Let's see, what is it? We're in March 43. So later this year that we're playing in now, he is made chief of staff of the Italian co-belligerent army. They don't quite let Italy become one of the allies, but it's a co-belligerent, meaning it's also at war with Germany and possibly some of the other Axis minors. I don't know if they declared war against countries like Romania or Hungary at the time, and as Van Bishop earlier talks about, Italy is sort of enters into a civil war, if you will. The Italian Fascist Grand Council deposes Mussolini. I am not an expert on fascism. I know a guy who Pavellini, which, if you know Italians, I think he's related to the famous one of World War II, but I'm not sure. Online friend. And he has a bigger interest and fascination with Italian fascism. Probably would know better than I do. I'm sure he does. Worked on a major mod of mine. But not all of the fascists are like, yay for alliance with Germany. They're fascists. They want to, grand Italian empire and all that kind of stuff. But the alliance with Germany wasn't always very popular with, including not just the royalists, but the fascists. And Mussolini really took them down a road. So he's deposed. He's arrested, and then, of course, the sort of famous Scorzini rescue of Mussolini, right at about the time of the. I think it was right at about the time. No, it was before. No, it was before the assassination attempt. I think on Hitler, but sorry. So Mussolini is, I think it was right about that time of the plot there. Not sure. Sets up the Italian Social Republic as a German puppet state in the north. The Italian government declares war against Germany, but Germany has occupied Italy. Was actually occupying Italy well before that time period, not this in 43, up in the north of Italy. And the commander of that army for a while was none other than Rommel, before he gets sent out to command in Normandy. But so it's sort of this Italian civil war, and in Italy, you know, they're not overly much aggressive against the Germans. I mean, there's lots of fighting, and I'm sure whether Van Bishop or others could catalog it better than I do. But it's more, I would call it in the lines of self-defense, because the Germans are running around trying to imprison and in some cases just execute large groups of Italian soldiers. Um, in prison like this, prisoner of war camps. But so there's sort of this fight. Some of the Italian Mareth and the other two armored divisions are basically rebuilt after their destruction in North Africa, largely with German tanks, just because the P-40 is the coming Italian tank. They don't get any effectively, I don't think, since the Italian army before the Italians surrender. So all of those tanks are all used by Germany. But so, yeah, there is fighting. It's not a lot, but Giovanni is chief of staff because he's seen as a royalist and not as a, and because remember, he had been on the staff, not as chief of staff, but on the staff of Victor Emmanuel II. Sort of for a time during World War I and then during the 20s. So he's, I'm pretty sure, would be knowing the king. Again, I'm not a biographer of him, but so he's around and he's well known and considered reliable in that sense. Just sort of want to wrap up his life here, and so he's running that, sort of reorganizing up and re-equipping Italy's army when and where they can with supplies, mainly from America, I believe, during the latter stages of World War II. And then after the war, leaves the army in 1947, and then eventually runs for I think it's like, what is it, looking here, yeah, about 2 years he's democratically elected to the Italian Senate. Now, back when I was in university studying political science, and so that was back in the early 90s, there had been on average one government per year since World War II at the time. I think Italy's become more stable in its government, but that's often because there was like 2 or 3 governments or elections within 1 year at times. So he stays briefly as a senator in the Italian Senate, and he's also in charge, or the sort of head of, leader, whatever you want to call it, of the Italian Veterans Association. Until his death. So I figure, it's maybe just sort of ceremonial. But that sort of wraps up Giovanni Messi's life for you all. I didn't want to leave you hanging. But his real sort of World War II actions, like, we're seeing here, end in Tunisia. Okay, well, see these guys, they're trouble. So we're going to come here. And they're going to first attack here with the support of them. Oh, we found a bunker here. Good, we spotted it instead of bumping into it. You can move into there and you can run away. Now we're going to move you over here to sort of protect the truck. And we're going to reinforce you a bit better to be just better off. Yeah. We're probably just going to kill that. Move into there to do better reconnaissance. Also going to the Free French attacking. These are the New Zealanders. Well, let's move you up. I know you're in trucks, but I don't think they're going to be able to directly hit you. We're already sort of pointing down as an anti-tank gun. So let's move you. Oh, found another bunker dam. Okay. Okay, so a lot of little entrenchments hidden around here. Maybe more out there, I don't know, obviously. Okay, so far we're doing pretty good with our push here. We're going to, let's just do regular reinforcement. You guys are going to fly over to here and land. Just so you know, reconnaissance aircraft in this game can fly forever. They don't need refueling. Now, okay, a lot of these guys we should probably move instead of shoot. Use the Wellington with its strategic type bombing attack. Them, how good? We're not maybe good enough yet. The Typhoons, yeah. We'll use the Typhoons on the tanks. Better chance. Where are this is? Yeah, the lemmings. 6-pounder Portee, yeah, not that good of an attack. They're more of a defensive anti-tank. That down a little bit. These are Panzer IV Gs there with the long-barreled 75mm guns, which are a bit dangerous to us. So we will reinforce. We do have the 6-pounder Portees backing them up as a anti-tank gun. Well, okay, oh well, they'll be in. Yeah, and I know I'm risking the. Oh shit, ran into a bunker. Okay, well, these guys will come up here. Huh. Go that way and go straight after these. Now these SDKFZ 135/1s, and no, I wouldn't know that number. Always the Germans. So the American Army for a while wanted to name everything literally M1, everything. An M1 jacket, an M1 bayonet, an M1 Garand, an M1 carbine, an M1 whatever. Everything was going to be M1. And finally someone sort of like said, no, you don't get to name everything an M1. But the Germans name everything special purpose vehicle. So it almost becomes meaningless. And 135/1, I wonder, did anybody really ever keep track of all of these things? Like as a soldier walking around could name them, by the numbers. But these are, here are, they were done in several iterations in several different versions, but I think what these are representing are, these are, okay, it's a Lorraine tractor. It is another French thing. The bottom part is very lightly armored, in the sense that it might be stopping, rifle bullets. But, it depends on sort of the angle. It's a metal body with very thin armor, and it's meant to be a tractor, to tow things, and maybe to carry things, not to be armed with any guns. So I'm not exactly sure what the French were primarily using them for, like towing artillery pieces maybe, or were they up to around the front, or whether they were using them for supply towing, or I don't know. But the Germans, and I believe it is Becker who is the one who's primarily in charge of all of these, is taking them and adding all that sort of, you can't really see, but the armored box in the back, and again lightly armored, but armored, and mounting in this version, I believe these are 150 millimeter infantry guns. The Schwer infantry Geschütz, heavy infantry gun, 150 millimeter. Yes, Lorraine Schlepper. Actually, hello, Cygnus. Yes, exactly right. That's Schlepper. I understand it to be a Yiddish word that the Germans were still using in the Nazi era, but I may be wrong on the Yiddish origins of the word, but Schlepper, or to carry. I do believe Schlepper enters the American language to schlep something out of Yiddish speakers. So maybe it's just common word with German. I'm not sure. But yeah. Okay. So we will move these guys up. We'll fire here. This thing, hopefully take it down a bit. And so there's a bunch of different versions of the Lorraine, because they're built in basically sort of workshops, not as a major factory production. Well, if we're going to move this forward, we might as well move it way forward. Okay, some of these guys here that haven't fired. Definitely the ones I was planning on moving forward. Oh. Okay, fighter time. Do we want to strike there? Do we want to come after these? Yeah. I've always liked the Martyr 2. Sort of cool looking. At least this version of the Martyr 2. And these were made on a combination of either Panzer IIs that were reworked, they had been Panzer IIs in the field, and they had been reworked, mounting the PaK 40, the 75 millimeter PaK 40 gun on it, or actually built as Martyr 2s, using, it's coming off, it's the same engine, same transmission, same road wheels, and, set up as a Panzer II. So whether purposely built as a Martyr II or converted later on, poor substitute for a tank, absolutely, but better than a Portee. Because this is what the Portee is here, as we can see here. A Portee, and it's just sort of a French-based word, I believe, for transporting something to carry. And so instead of towing the anti-tank gun around the desert behind the truck, they mounted it on the back of it so that they could drive it around, and then of course you turn around, turn around backwards, and then use it from mounted on the truck as an anti-tank gun in North African desert. See over here, this kind of flat terrain, so you move it around, and the recoil on a truck is going to be a lot more affecting it than on tracks. But if you compare these two vehicles, the Martyr 1, which is another French upgrade with a Pack 40. I think it's the Pack 40 they had. Or the Jagdpanzer 1, which is even earlier, Panzer 1 with a Czech 47mm gun mounted on it. But comparing the two, the Martyr is obviously, even if we're not looking at the qualities, I'm pretty sure the Pack 40 is a much better gun than the 6-pounder. Now the 17-pounder, that's a really good gun on that. But so it's better than if we're looking at the purpose of these two vehicles to be the same, as well as to be the same purpose of a towed anti-tank gun. The only advantage that I can see with a towed anti-tank gun is it's a little easier to dig in position so that it can get a little better protection and maybe harder to spot. But it's not that hard to spot an anti-tank gun after it's firing a bit, because the muzzle blast and the often dust that it kicks up around it, you start getting the general location pretty easy. So yeah, comparing these two vehicles here, I'm going the Martyrs, which there's also the Martyr 3 and others, but Martyr is a pretty good idea for a mobile anti-tank gun, whether it's operating in support of, say, an infantry unit like you would sort of picture with a standard towed anti-tank gun, or here Hans Sandrock, don't know who he is, he's right now commanding some Panzer 3Ls. So Panzer 3s with their 50mm gun, they can penetrate a Sherman. Yeah, it's still effective. Not as effective as you want, and not nearly as effective as a Martyr, especially at longer ranges. So you can definitely use these guys sort of hanging back a bit, not being up front with the tanks, but hanging back a bit and targeting the enemy tanks. They can be very effective to operational. So I've always liked, it is a desperation move, but it's also a rather effective one that the Germans use in World War II. Okay, so we'll move, guess you up back up to there. I think it's almost back to there. I think for sure. No, we're gonna hold. Okay, well, while we can, let's reinforce that. And we'll reinforce these guys. And we'll reinforce Monty a bit. We'll see what they do, because we have the Portee there operating as an anti-tank gun. We'll probably go after that, the Australian or New Zealand infantry. I think those are New Zealanders. Okay, they went after the engineers. They were probably the weaker ones there, but that got them a lot weaker, so for our offensive, we'll do better. Yeah, our bunkers are hitting the other guys. Yep, I called it right there. Oh, they're actually coming over there as well. They're going to go that way. That hurts enough as it is. Uh-oh. The 109s are back. They're being deadly dangerous. Well, guys, I think we've gone over time, I know, but I've been enjoying hanging out with you guys. Again, I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I'll just, again, throw in my links to my Twitch channel, which I stream on the weekends. and my YouTube channel, which you can see, including there'll be this video will be posted there later on, so that those people can watch this. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I do appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow playing Valorant Victory, the Stalingrad campaign. Be looking hopefully a bit earlier. We'll tea time. Oh, also some people was posting, and I noticed the schedule has not been posted. I think it's going to be for the rest of this month, mostly just the noon showing, except for Thursdays, which will hold, the regular tea time at its regular time, and then 3 streams after it. So, so Thursday for this month will be the big day. The rest will just be a single time, sort of starting at, which is noon my time out here in the Pacific, but sort of the second start for that for the rest of the month. Hey, Tony First Gen. So less streams for this month, but that's when they'll be starting, I think, for the rest of the month. So hopefully you'll join us then. Thanks, everyone.